Welcome everybody to Kids Are Talking. My name is Michael Budd, and we have a great show for you today. This is Kids Are Talking, episode 27. Kids Are Talking about mental health stigma. So it's a great show. It's a very important show. We've partnered with Positive Directions and Turning Point CT to bring you a great panel. We're also sponsored by Pet Vet Care Center, so check them out. If you want to participate or have any questions for the panel, please leave some comments in the comment box. We'll try to talk about them on the show. And if you want to learn more about Kids Are Talking, you can visit us at kidsaretalking.live. So without any further ado, let's get the show rolling, and we'll see you soon.
I want to hear everyone's different perspectives and let everyone know that they're not alone.
Gives me hope for a lot of people, because I know there's people that really struggle with it.
Do things that you want to do to influence the world in the way you want.
Go out of your way to educate yourself by watching the show.
Everybody's always going to be struggling with mental health, yet nobody will know about it.
Kids Are Talking has given me an outlet to share my opinion and talk to people from all over the world. Dr. Don? Can y'all hear me?
Dr. Don's here.
Can you hear him? That's the question.
Well, can you hear? And I'll tell you something, just the pet thing from last week, the response around the country was really huge. I kind of like the way we end before we go into a very serious subject with that friendly pet. And yeah, can we all hear? So I'm here. I'm here to talk about a subject that is probably on the top of the list of important things to discuss across the land, everywhere.
This is probably really important with your practice and what you deal with on a daily basis. So
it's not an accident that people can't even get to see their therapist right now if they are get into hospitals. We're all too busy. We shouldn't be this busy. And the stigma around mental health, of course, Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, we all know about, Michael Phelps. We could go on and on about celebrity people that have come out. We've talked about it on other shows. And it's old news now that
it's unfortunate the news cycle just goes so fast. But I mean, we partnered with Turning Point CT, and they brought us some great panels. So we have Kaylee and Sasha and Jen here, and they want to talk with us about the mental health stigma and what they've been doing to help everybody around the area. So,
well, we need to go back. So many of our shows, by the way. Hi guys, nice to have you all here. We've had so many shows on mental health, or even when the shows are not about mental health, mental health always comes up.
Right.
So tonight it's all about that. It's not indirect. It's right in our faces. And the three of you, I understand, have devoted your life to this subject. So we're honored, privileged to have all of you on. And so what we're going to do is I want to say hi to Jen. I want to say hi to Sasha. I want to say hi to Kaylee. And basically we'll start with you, Jen, just tell us a little bit about why you wanted to come on tonight, why you see this as such an important show, a little bit of just who you are, so America gets to meet you. So we're going to start with you, and then we'll meet Sasha and Kaylee as well. So Jen, just tell us who you are, why you wanted to come on tonight, and we're all ears. We want to listen. Go ahead.
So I'm Jen. I definitely wanted to be on this because there's a lot of stigmas when it comes to mental health, and there's also a lot of stigma.
Oh, I think we lost you, Jen.
We lost you, Jen. We'll get back to Jen. What stigma? We could start with you, Sasha. I guess that you can do the same thing about tell us why you're here tonight.
All right, yeah.
Are you back, Jen? Are you back? Did we get you back, Jen?
We lost your audio, Jen.
Yeah, Jen, we lost your audio. So Sasha, we'll go to you. Tell us why you want to come tonight, why this show is so important for you, stigma of mental health.
Yeah, so I really wanted to come on tonight because this is a really important issue to me, and I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. I think it's something that makes people uncomfortable sometimes, and that kind of negates the purpose of talking about it. So I really wanted to have an opportunity to really share both my experiences and my opinions on the mental health stigmas, as well as, you know, what we as a country can do to really, you know, stop all the mental health stigmas that are stopping so many people from getting the help that they need and stopping people from really feeling their emotions.
So thank you. That's great. Can you tell us a little bit? You're 16, right?
Yes.
So that's nice. A 16-year-old kid like you getting out here and want to talk about this. That's pretty cool. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about what you're doing as a 16-year-old involved with mental health right now.
Yeah, so I originally started getting involved with mental health advocacy probably about a year ago.
Mhm.
I first reached out to Turning Point and I started writing articles as well as doing some podcasts with them about mental health and writing about my own experiences and my opinions and things that have helped me in my recovery journey. My biggest goal is to help other people. I think, you know, if I had known when I was younger that there was a place where I could read about other people's experiences and relate to them that much, I think it really would have helped me. Um, so yeah, my biggest goal has just been trying to get the word out and simultaneously help other people while being able to express myself and kind of help my own recovery. Being able to have a platform where I can talk about my mental health um, without judgment and really share my opinions has been really amazing. And it's something that I've just kind of wanted to keep doing.
Can you share a little bit of your own recovery with us?
Yes. So I am still in the process of recovery from a few things. I have struggled with anxiety and depression almost my entire life. And more recently have struggled with things like eating disorders. So I'm still in the process of overcoming all of those. Um, and mental health and psychology have been things that are a big passion for me. I not only find them really interesting, but it's something that I understand. Um, and I really care about, you know, helping other people. And so that's been like the biggest focus. You know, I've had a really hard time, especially when I was a child, because I felt so alone with struggling with my mental health. And as I've gotten older and I've become more aware of, um, you know, all the different platforms that are out there and everything that's out there to support, I wanted to become a part of it. And I wanted to do whatever I could.
And you've had a lot of psychotherapy. You've had a good experience with psychotherapy.
Yes, I have had a lot of experience with psychotherapy as well as medication, which kind of plays into the mental health stigma. But
Great. Maybe
yes.
you'll share some. So something unusual happened already tonight. We've already gotten a question from Norm's Whale, and I haven't introduced the other two people yet. So I think the way I'm going to handle that question is start with you, Sasha, and then when we meet the other two guests, they can answer it also. Do you feel the pandemic has brought mental health out more of people talking about it and being more open about it?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of people, you know, a lot of times they say with mental health, it's the kind of thing where sometimes you have to experience it to really understand. And I think the pandemic for a lot of people was an introduction into what some of those mental health struggles can feel like. And I think with so many people experiencing it around the world, we kind of all had this connection of like, hey, we're all kind of really struggling right now. And this is a really difficult time for everybody. And this is something that has become even more important in pandemic times because we're so disconnected from other people, which we all know has a major impact on mental health. So
Well, we're
yes,
all
I definitely think the pandemic helped open up this conversation because so many more people became like aware of how big of an issue it is.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Sasha. Welcome for being here.
Thank you.
I think
Uh,
one thing that the pandemic definitely brought on, I'm glad that Sasha said it, was a lot of the percentages of people talking about their mental health or dealing with their mental health during the pandemic. A lot of those statistics and the percentage rose a lot. A lot of people realizing that they're becoming a little bit agoraphobic, which isn't the fear of going outside, it's the fear of having a panic attack while you're outside in public. And I think a lot of people need to pull back a little bit and remember this has been a lot. We have been through a lot. And it's
That is-
okay to sit back and say, okay, I need to take a break. I need to talk to somebody about my mental health. I need to start healing myself.
Well, we're all going to talk to each other tonight about our own mental health because this has been one hell of a ride, right? So let's introduce you because we didn't get a chance to do that before we lost you. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here tonight. Why? Because we were starting to talk about stigma and then we lost you about the stigma of mental health, which is what tonight's show is about. So just introduce yourself and tell us what you were trying to say before.
So I'm Jen. I'm a recovery coach. I work at Recovery of Network Programs. I work mainly in the methadone clinics where, people who struggle with substance abuse and mental health, they go there to receive medicated assistant treatment. Some of my clients are actively using, some of them are struggling with homelessness, food insecurity, domestic violence, gang violence. Some of them are coming right out of the prison system and they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any resources. So my job is to pair them with all the resources that they need, plus that peer support and that emotional support to say, hey, listen, you just got beat up by your boyfriend and you don't have a place to stay. I get it. I've been there, Hey, your mom just kicked you out because you came out to her. Hey, I get it. I've been there. I've had those moments.
Jen, tell us how you've been there. How did you? What is your own personal story without details?
I'm sorry, say again.
Just some of your own personal story about how you got into this field yourself. Like you say, you've been there. You can just share.
So I personally am 6 years sober from opiates. I started at a really young age before I became a teenager. I had a family that was very engulfed in substance abuse and had a lot of mental health problems that were unaddressed, which a very large percentage of people that struggle with mental health, with substance abuse have an undiagnosed mental health disorder. After I got clean, I decided that what I wanted to do with my life was to help other people be sober and be able to live the life that they deserve. Not only that they want, but that they deserve. People deserve to have a good life. Just because someone struggled with their mental health and substance abuse or, what have you, that doesn't mean they don't deserve to have a good life. And when I realized that I wanted to do that, I was able to see that in people. I'm able to see that in clients when they come in and, they feel bad about themselves. They want to go out and get jobs and, they don't have a place to shower, to have clean clothes. They don't have a space to get ready in. They don't have the resources that they need yet. So my job is to make all those connections. And like I said, be that support system for them.
Well, good for you, Jen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing. And what a privilege to have you all here. And let's meet Callie. We haven't met you yet, Callie. Callie, tell us.
Kaylee. It's
Kaylee, sorry about that.
It's okay.
You've got to get your names right on the show or else Dr. Don's going to feel very bad. All right. So tell us a little bit about why you're here, what this subject brings to you about stigma and mental health. And then also you can address Norm's question about the pandemic and if you feel it's also brought people out more. So go ahead.
So mental health has always been like a really big part of my life. Like I've always kind of been the therapist friend. Like anytime anyone had a problem, like I was always that person that was sitting there like trying to fix it because I had so many problems growing up. Like I've dealt with anxiety, depression, like I've had struggled with eating disorders. I was diagnosed with PTSD, which I think was actually supposed to be complex post-traumatic disorder, which is like, over repeated like traumas, not just one big event. So having struggled with it like for a lot of my life and like, having suicidal ideations, it's just so important to me that people know that they're not alone. And currently I am the project coordinator at Turning Point CT, which is a statewide peer support community. It's like really just a place for people who struggle to like come and see like that they're not alone and to like hear other people's experiences who have been through it, because a lot of people can say like, oh, you're talking about your mental health for like attention. And it's like, why would I want to be known as someone who's like mentally ill in a world where we still live in that people are like, oh, mental health, like that's not real, that's just an excuse. And you know, I'm here and I share my story like constantly, like I'm an open book. I share it all because I want other people to know that they're not alone. Like there are other people who've been through it, and not only have we been through it, but like we've made it out on the other side. You know, like yeah, there's like good days, there's bad days. You know, I might not look mentally ill to you. I might not look like I suffer, but like I've been through it. There are days like I can't get out of bed. There are days where like I like people know by now that I have really bad social anxiety, and they're like, hey, Kaylee, like I'm gonna invite you to this party, but like don't feel like you have to come, because they know like being in situations where like I don't know anyone, like I literally shut in and I like look unapproachable, and like, you know, I'm not like
Kaylee,
that, but I just have such bad anxiety. And like
Kaylee, I think you hit it right on the head when you just said, which was that, you know, you don't look like you have, you know, mental health issues. And I think people, that's what they feel. They say, well, I don't look like I have mental health issues, so then I'm fine. Or someone says, you look fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. And I think that's the stigma that we're trying to break, is that there is no face to mental health issues. It's inside, and it can affect anyone regardless of the way they look, the way they dress, their you know, their race, um, their level of wealth, or the neighborhood they live in, or anything.
and we're really good at hiding it. That's the other thing, you know, like people will be like, oh, I had no idea. Like that's always what it is. If something like happens, like someone goes into inpatient, someone, you know, dies by suicide, it's always, I had no idea. Like, because again, you can't tell. We like mask it because we live in this society where it's, oh my God, you're going to show your emotions, and like it's basically you're weak. But like most of us who are struggling with our mental health, we're not weak. We're like really strong because we push through on the days, even when we don't want to. I've had so many days where I've like had a plan to like, you know, and I'm like, I'm going to give all of the money in my bank account to this person. And like, oh my God, who's going to take care of my cat? And like, but even on those days where I was just like ready to just end it and just not be here anymore, I pushed through because, you know, I have people around me, like it would hurt them, but like I have so much that like I still have an experience, and there's like a lot for me to live for, even on those days where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But somehow, you know, we all keep pushing through, but there are others who aren't so lucky. And, you know, like, yes, like there's but so many different faces to mental health. Like there's no one face or like one way. Everyone's story is like so different. The way we deal with it's different. There are so many like symptoms people don't even know about. Like for me, my anxiety, it's like physical symptoms, and people are like, oh, it's just like nervousness. It's like, it's not. Like I get like numbness in my fingers, like I feel so sick, I get like hot, I have heart palpitations, and it's just like people like, you know, they just have it because the media has like, you know, in movies, TV shows, even like the news, like paints mentally ill people as like people who are school shooters, you know, like I'm not a school shooter. Yes, I'm depressed, but like I'm not gonna go out and like shoot like people, you know. And it's just, you know, as you can see, I have a lot to say about this because like as someone who like sees the like, you know, in comment sections on social media, like, oh my God, like just bad mouthing people and like saying people are doing it for attention, it's just like, why would anyone like want to be known as this person when there are so many stigmas?
There are better ways to get attention, I think.
Right. Like I don't want to be known as that person who like, you know, is so anxious they can't leave the house, or like, you know, doesn't want to live. Like who wants to be known as the person who wants to kill themselves? Like nobody wants to be known as that.
Right. So do you think the pandemic, because do you think the pandemic is made more pronounced and more easier to talk about and bring people out more?
So I think yes, for sure, especially because there are more like, you know, bigger people like celebrities, influencers, like talking more openly about it. I mean, like for me, even before the pandemic happened or anything, like I was all about just like spewing it to whoever would listen to me. But I think for sure a lot of people, because more people are talking about it, especially during the pandemic, because as you said, we've all been through hell. Like it's been, I know when the pandemic first started, I was working and I was going to college, and then all of a sudden it was like my classes were online, and then I was pretty much laid off from work, didn't have an income because I had to set up unemployment, which was really hard in itself as someone with like anxiety and like, you know, not knowing how to do something and having to just figure it out on your own is like hard. And then like I wasn't eating, I wasn't getting out of bed. And then finally I just had to like push through it. I started to like slowly go outside and just try to like get fresh air to cope. But like, and then, you know, it's just, you can't see your family. It's hard, you know, and it's not just like one thing. It's like all of these other things that you don't think about are like suddenly just like coming at you and like beating you down because you can't do anything about it. It's a like global pandemic.
So I'll ask all three of you now. Let's all join in together in a group discussion. How did we get here? I mean, how did the suicide rates are up. You're seeing it in young kids. We're seeing shootings in the school. And how did we get to this place in America? And the stigma of mental health. What happened to us? Sasha?
Yeah, honestly, I think that this was a long time coming, and a lot of it had to do with the way that we view mental health as a society and the way that it's been demonized. And, you know, when people feel like they can't talk and they bottle it up, and eventually that's going to have to come out. And sometimes, especially when we get into people who are really struggling or have really serious mental illness, that can come out in a really scary way. And I think the fear that people have about getting help or being perceived as someone who is broken or crazy or unworthy or somehow inferior stops people from getting the help that they need and stops them from saying anything. And that can result in a lot of really, you know, terrible situations that could have been avoided if, you know, we had more support and we, as a country, you know, were able to like help.
So what contributes to all this denial and people just wanting to look the other way or poke fun at it, make judgments? I mean, is it a threat to them as well? The people are making the judgments. I mean, what is the threat that's going on there?
Yeah, I think it's simultaneously people don't want to look at the darker part of themselves, which undeniably we all have.
We all have that.
Regardless of if you're mentally ill or not. Every person has, you know.
We do all have that, don't we?
Yeah. And I think people don't want to face that. And people also are uncomfortable with things that they perceive as wrong or ugly or incorrect.
So, you know, how about this, like Minnesota, where that shooting took place? The parents go in there. We've talked about this on other shows. I mean, the way schools are schools dealing with mental health? I mean, like, look what happened. The parents came in. People knew that kid was depressed and was threatening to shoot up the school. They let him go home. They were supposed to let him go. They were supposed to take him home, not let him go. Take him home. He goes back into the classroom. He shoots up the school. What is going on there in with mental health? Because what's come up on a lot of the shows is, like I said, that kid was supposed to go home. They let him back in the classroom with all the warning signs. How come we're missing the warning signs of mental health, both in terms of in the homes and the schools? How can we address this so people are more aware of to watch the signs and to not allow to turn our heads? Go ahead. Anybody else? These questions, just jump in. Jump in.
I mean, think about it. You have one social worker, maybe 2 or 3, you know, school counselors in a school of 2, 3, 4, 500 kids. There's not enough support. There's simply not enough support. And you lay all those kids on those few adults, I couldn't imagine having a caseload of even 100 kids. Imagine how, dealing with all those kids. You would think about it. You've got kids that are growing up in homes where, there's mental health and substance abuse in the home. That is a huge caseload in itself. But then you've got all these kids that are going through all these changes and all these different mental health things, because a lot of our mental health starts in when we're young. The things that happen to us or that we go through when we're young. And then you've got all these kids and all these emotions and all these also hormonal and physical changes going on with them. You can't just put that on a few adults. You can't.
So the parents, like, Callie, you want to address this issue because, like, going in Minnesota, for instance, in the schools, the parents, as you say, it's in the homes. It's like these parents this is the first time we've ever seen in America where parents are being responsible for. There was a gun in the house. I think he got it. His father gave it to him as a birthday present. How do we help parents? And a lot of parents are probably watching this show tonight. How do we help parents become more alert in their own homes and in general to mental health problems? And so the kids that they're raising, because it does start in the home. What are parents missing?
I mean, there are definitely signs and symptoms, like if their kids withdrawn, that's usually like a really big indicator. But the problem is with parents is they don't want to address it because, to them, it's like it's a reflection on them. So they'd rather just like ignore it than like, sit down and think like, could this be because of something I did? Because that's hard for them. So they'd rather just ignore it, put up their blinders. But at the same time, it's just like there are indicators. And the reason why usually kids will not go to their parents is because their parents are usually like, you have parents that are like, oh my God, like grow up, like don't be such a baby, like what's wrong with you, just like deal with it. Like, and if someone's really like struggling and at that point, it's just like you can't just tell them like suck it up and deal with it. Like you need to actively help them, like find them help. Like the thing is the kid might push back and be like, I don't want the help, but you have to at least try and be like supportive. I feel like being supportive is like such a really big thing, and just listening to them can make a huge difference, like even just listening to them. But again, a lot of parents are just like so quick to push back when their kids share something with them that they might not like or agree with.
I think it's also important to remember, the reality of the idea of getting in trouble. I mean, you look at that situation, and the text from his mother that said, "Just don't get in trouble."
Right.
And it's all about being elusive. There's a really, it's about being elusive and hiding our mental health and hiding what we're going through. And if somebody bullies us, just swallow it and be tough. So there's that. It's like we're building on a society that strives to be so tough that you just suffer through everything and you don't try to get help. Like that's what our society is built on. And who can be the toughest, who can go through the most, who can feel the most hurt and not and not do anything.
So what can the schools do? We have a question in the chat room now, which is funny. I was just actually thinking of asking that question, because what can we do in the schools? We're obviously undermanned in terms of servicing the problems in the schools right now. More social workers, we have teachers, administrators. I mean, what can we do? Because kids are. In my own hometown, I hear that like 70% of the kids are depressed because of COVID. How do we meet the demands of these mental health problems in the schools right now? We're understaffed. What do we do about it? Sasha?
Yeah, it's certainly a complicated problem because, there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. It's how many people can you hire, budgets, how do we make sure that every kid gets the attention they need? And it is a complicated problem, but I think there are a lot of things, like I can say right now, I'm a student in a school still. And there are things that could be changed in a heartbeat that I know would make such a difference and wouldn't require any budget changes, wouldn't require any. I think one of the biggest things is creating a safe environment, and not safe in the way of like, you know, of course, physically you want the students to feel safe, but emotionally safe. I think it's important that if we want school to feel like a place where kids can talk about how they're feeling, we not only need to make it so that the social workers and the guidance counselors in the school are there, but make sure that everyone's aware and everyone's looking out. Make sure the teachers are aware that, hey, if a student looks like not okay, it's okay to say something to a guidance counselor because they might need help. You know, I think focusing on programs that are meant to help students. Like I can say our school tried to do like a mental wellness thing, and they got like a hypnotist and like some balloons and like we got ice cream. Like it's a nice gesture, but the real problem is dealing with how kids feel, and you know, no amount of ice cream is going to help that.
Do you think it's important to teach kids how to help each other?
Absolutely. And I think it really needs to be taught how to help yourself, like self-soothing skills, how to identify when you might think something's wrong, you know, being aware of your own mental health and understanding its importance, just as we teach physical health. You know, we have an entire health class. And yes, mental health is a unit in that, but it's not given the significance it should because it's just as important.
Anyone else want to jump in on this?
I mean, I personally, and this is just me, I personally think that a mental health course, not a little sprinkle of mental health with health class. I mean, like an actual, you know, like I go to community college, and a lot of us tell younger people, if you can get in and do a year, take a year of psychology. If you can't afford to start going to therapy, if you don't have the type of money or insurance, try to get a grant, try to get a FAFSA and take 1 year of psychology and try to learn about yourself. You know, these things should be freely accessible to the kids in public schools. To have a course to say, this is kind of, to give them at least a guide of this is what you're going to start to experience. This is what you do if this happens. If you start to feel, you know, depressed, or let's open up that conversation. Do you feel suicidal?
Yeah, that's interesting. Are there mental health classes being taught in the schools at all, or does that happen at all? Not going on, Sasha, huh? Not going on. None of you. Okay. So here's the thing. How about we did a show last week which had an unbelievable response with pets, support animals. Do you think that schools should have? We had a chat room question that came up. Should we be having support animals in the schools? Would that help also? Because it was obvious last week that was really. I mean, pets are very popular now. I mean, everybody has.
Look at how everybody just started smiling when you said having pets in schools.
I mean, pets are just like so.
It says the whole story.
And I mean, think about it. You bring a service animal into a school, that immediately makes the conversation more comfortable because there's already these service animals in the school for people and children who are having either a mental health crisis, who need to take a minute, you know, what have you. And that opens up the conversation. That's the thing. Open conversation to where it's not hushed. It's not like, oh, you know, I'm feeling some type of way, but I'm scared to talk to my teacher or my guidance counselor about it. It should already be known that mental health is a thing, that mental health is something that should be openly spoken about. That should be just a no-brainer in school. Mental health is something that we talk about openly.
Callie and Sasha, you agree with that? Yeah. Get the pets in there, huh? How would we use the pets in the school? In what way could we bring that in a really constructive way?
So from my personal experience, my school actually brought in therapy dogs when we had midterms.
Really? How many did they bring in?
I think we had about 3 or 4. Some of the teachers at our school have certified their dogs as therapy dogs, so they brought their dogs in, and I think we had a few others. But I can say,
did everybody get to meet these therapy dogs when they came to you?
Yeah, the whole therapy dog area was packed.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, people were overjoyed. Like, it was such a nice thing to have when everybody's so stressed out about something like midterms, which is such a, I think they knew that it was really getting to people. And I can say it was probably one of the most effective ways of calming people down.
Wow.
I'm an animal lover, and just having like the atmosphere of having dogs around makes me feel better.
Maybe we fire all the PhDs and just have dog therapists or cat therapists or bird therapists. I mean, the hell with me, and no more Dr. Don. Just get those pets in there. I mean, my God, the show we had last week that we came up, and I cannot begin to tell you the response we got from last week's show. So there must be something to this. Like I was even thinking, like kids are talking, right? We're having the show tonight. I mean, how about programs like this coming into the school? One of my fantasies for kids are talking, by the way, and Mike and I have talked about this, is going into the schools and having assemblies. Of course, then you got to deal with parents who don't want to deal with any of this stuff, and you got to get permission slips. So I guess it's kind of like the vaccination, non-vaccination thing. I guess we just if the parents approve of their kids being able to be exposed to a show like this, would it be good to have these kind of shows and programs in the schools? And are we doing enough of that? Because frankly, I don't think it's happening very much anymore from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
How come? Because I will tell you that I've been around here a long time. I used to have a much more involvement. Therapists who are outside therapists, we used to have much more involvement with the schools. It doesn't seem to happen anymore. I don't have to worry about lawsuits or whatever else it is. But like, what about a show like this and have it as an assembly at school and have other people come in? And how come the schools are not doing that? And with all these shootings and everything else, it just drives me crazy. Please help me with this.
Yeah, I think it's such a honestly, it's such a complicated, it makes me so angry because I think it's something that is so incredibly important, like you said, especially in times like this where we're seeing school shootings rise in popularity and we're seeing, more and more kids lose their lives to suicide. And yet the schools seemingly are doing less. So I think it would be great to have a platform where kids would be able to talk. I know how much of a help it's been for me personally, and I think it would help a lot of other people, especially in an environment where, that's encouraged.
And we've had kids on the show say that they can't have these types of conversations in school. It just doesn't work out the same way.
It's driving me crazy. So Callie, Jen, what do you think about this?
I really do think being able.
Am I saying your name right, by the way?
Nope.
Still not saying
it. It's
right. Kaylee. Just hit me over the head if I keep getting it wrong, okay? Kaylee.
I'm used to it. I've heard way worse.
I don't know, Kaylee, whatever. Kaylee, so tell us what you think, and then Jen, jump in on the subject too. Go ahead.
So I think, being able to openly talk about it in a safe place is so important. And that's kind of like the whole idea around where I work now at Turning Point CT. Like, really, it's just like openly talking about it. And like, because when you talk about it with others, you hear like, okay, other people are struggling with this, like, because you feel isolated, it's just like, if you don't talk about it and it feels like unsafe to talk about it, it like makes you feel like isolated. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you because you're struggling with the thing that's taboo to speak about. And, it would be nice if, there were assemblies like this. Like, I know when I was in school that we never had any kind of assembly for mental health. We never had any speakers come in. Like Sasha said, it's like a little tiny, like sprinkled into the health class. But I think like having an actual class, like people shouldn't have to pay like a therapist, like just to learn these should be basic life skills. Like you shouldn't have to be at a point where you're basically broken and having to like try and piece your life back together in therapy. Like you should like know these skills before it happens.
So I have a question because Norm's Whale had a really good question. What do you all do to ease your mental health pain? What do each of you do to do that?
For me, it's photography and like hiking and getting outside, like hobbies have been really good for me. And I actually have 4 pets. So
So that helps ease your pain.
yeah, I have 3 cats and we recently got a puppy last week. So
that's what does it for you. Those things that you just said.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Has been huge for me, and like just getting outside and like traveling to, like, for me, like it's wildlife photography. So like just sitting out there with like the birds. I'm like basically a crazy bird lady now. This happened during the pandemic because that's just how I coped. I was like, I can't go anywhere. So I went outside where I, could be outside without like a mask and being scared of people or getting the virus. I was just like out hanging out with nature. Like, and that's really what got me through this whole pandemic.
Nature. That's a biggie, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Sasha?
Yeah, there have been a lot of different ways that I've learned how to ease mental pain. Like Kaylee said, developing hobbies has been a really big help for me. Over the pandemic, I learned how to make jewelry. I learned how to make my own clothes. I love to read. That's something that's really relaxing for me. Talking about, mental health really helps me. It's kind of like getting it off your chest. What else? I volunteer with shelters sometimes. Like you said, pets and being around animals really helps. It's almost like you can focus on, something else, and it kind of takes away from it's not a distraction, but it's something that makes you feel good. And kind of eases that pain, at least for me.
And who do you like to talk about mental health with?
It depends. I'm very lucky to have a few family members who I feel comfortable talking about it with. Turning Point and my writing has been a really big help.
What do you like to write?
Kind of just expressing.
Sasha, what do you like to write?
I like to write about both personal experiences and how they've impacted me and like my own journey with mental health, as well as like things I think are important. I've written a piece on mental health stigmas because it's been a really big part of my life, and I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. And I've also written about how, travel has changed my life and how it kickstarted my mental health journey because of everything I learned. It's really whatever I feel I need to express in that moment, and whatever I feel can either help other people or people can relate, or I can, it's both for me and for others, which, is something that I find really nice because something that helps me is helping other people.
It's hard to travel in COVID, though. You can imagine. I mean, that's driving everybody.
Yes, it was all before COVID, and it was kind of like a reminiscing period.
But now that we can't travel, that's not an easy escape valve anymore. So we have to find things that take us inside ourselves more, right? And find it in our own space, so to speak.
Definitely.
Right? And how about you, Jen? What do you do to ease your mental health pain?
So one thing that I recently started doing that I really like is I do a lot of stuff with my phone. So I'm learning, as I learn my coping skills, I use my phone with it because I have it all the time. And I know people are like, oh, technology is so bad. These kids are always on their phone. It's a tool. Everybody has a phone. Everybody's always going to have a phone, and you can use it for better or for worse. I use it for my better. So a lot of times what I do is I've learned to practice what's called a happy place. And it's you go in your mind, closing your eyes to a place where you're at your most blissful, happy self. And I couldn't do it for a long time, and I would forget to do it every day. So what I did was I set an alarm every day to remind myself to practice it. That way, when I start to have a panic attack or a meltdown or a moment, I remember how to do it. Another thing that I do is I journal every day of how I'm feeling, and that really helps me to feel connected with myself. A lot of times, with CPTSD and ADHD, I forget a lot. So there'll be weeks where I don't remember how my week went because I didn't jot down how my moods were. And that makes me feel a lot more in tune with myself. I feel a lot more connected with my emotions. Another thing that I do is just try No matter what it is, just try. When I had COVID, I was at home for like 7 days straight, just by myself, because I live by myself. Well, I had my cats, which was really awesome, but
Of course,
I would do little things at a time, and I would tell myself, I would be talking to myself this whole time. Like, I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna take a shower, and that's really good for me, and that's really good for my mental health, and I'm doing something kind to my body. I'm gonna stand outside for 5 minutes with my jacket on and just breathe in some nice fresh air. That's good for my body. I'm doing something nice and kind to myself.
And what do you do on the phone? I'm just curious. That's so great.
I'm sorry?
What do you do with the phone that helps you? I mean, I'm just curious about what you meant about the phone.
Oh, so I use an app for my journaling. It's called Moji Note. And you can pick the mood you're in. You can pick all the activities that you did, and then you can also journal. And then you save it, and it looks like a regular calendar on your phone, but it'll show the emotions, and it'll show you charts and graphs of how your moods went up, how they went down, how how you were doing, and you can look back and look at those notes, and you can look back at your moods. Like I said, I use I
Mike's
do
asking
my
what the
alarm.
app is.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
What's the name of the app?
It's called Moji. Oh my fucking god!
Mojo.
Please tell me it didn't go away. There we go. Sorry about.
So what's it called?
What's it called? Mojo.
Mojo. We lose you, Jen?
Oh no, we lost her audio.
We
again.
lost Jen again, Mike. Oh my God, we'd like to hear about that app. So we'll get back to Jen. So Norm's famous question. It seems to come up so often on the show. Norm is my very good friend from Santa Fe, who's very artistic. Jen, are you still gone? She's still gone. How important is the creative soul? Norm wants to know, how important for mental health is it to have a creative soul? Who wants to respond?
I think it's incredibly important. For me, it's been one of my biggest outlets and one of the biggest ways that I can express myself. I love painting and drawing and writing, really any form of creative expression. It's really helped me cope, and it's served as both a tool for relaxation and also getting out my emotions. So I think it's really important. It's been a huge coping mechanism for me, and a healthy one.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I think it helps you get in tune with yourself, and it can be a, tool to connect with other people. Yeah, I think it's really important.
How about the other two? How about everybody else on that one? Anybody else want to address the creative soul? Writing has come up a lot. Writing has come up a lot. But how about you guys respond to that?
A lot of times I'll actually go into my car, or I'll find like a little speaker in my house, put headphones in something, and I will literally listen to music as loud as I can and scream and sing my heart out.
What's the name of that app now? Can you tell us what we've lost you? So can you tell us the name
That's
of
called Mojino, Mojinote. And it's a really nice app. I think it's only $3 for the whole year. And it's really nice. You can set I believe you can set reminders on it. You can pick, like I said, there's tons of different emotions. From a loved one passed away, I got a lot of work done today. I didn't get a lot of work done. I rested. So many different options you can pick from. And like I said, it helped me connect to myself a lot more. I felt more in tune with my own mind and my own emotions, which helped me a lot. Because a lot of times when you have CPTSD, you feel really disconnected from everybody. Your mind will sometimes isolate itself to where you're thinking, maybe I don't have anybody. Maybe it's just me. But I can look back and say, no, I think I'm just having a bad day. I think this is just biochemical, because this is how my day went yesterday. I was with friends. I spoke to this person, and it's basically looking for evidence. I tell a lot of people that, especially at the clinic, when you're thinking of something and you're not sure whether it's true or not, look for evidence, right? So if I were to say, I really don't think Kaylee likes me. I don't think she likes me at all. I don't think she likes me. But then I would have to say, where's the evidence for that? Has she told me she doesn't like me? Has she been mean to me? Has she ignored my text messages? Anything like that. There's no evidence, so it must not be true.
Haley, what do you think of that? How's that sound to you?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, evidence is definitely key because there are a lot of times like that the anxious mind or like those intrusive thoughts are just telling you things that are so crazy. And it's like, if you take the step back, you're like, okay, well, clearly there's no evidence for that. Like, like Jen said, it's just like, oh, so and so like must hate me, or like, they breathe the wrong way. And then you're like, okay, well, is this in my head or is this really happening? Most of the time it's just like, no, like everything's fine. I'm like doing this. Like my anxiety is just like building this up when there's really nothing there.
So what does creativity do for you, Kaylee?
So for me, like not only do I have like the photography, but I also like play music. Like I can play the guitar, the piano. Those were really big for me when I was younger. Like my dad used to always tell people like, I know Kaylee had a bad day if she like immediately comes home and goes into her room and plays the piano for hours.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I used to do? I used to play with my little men in my room, and have my imagination just go wild. So they worry about you. So they worry about you if you go to your room, huh? They know there's something
like
up.
if I sat down at the piano and just like played for hours, like there's just something about like playing the music. Like listening to music is like really something that has helped me a lot. But like there's something different about like actually playing the music and like knowing that like you are creating that. Like just something about like me running my fingers across the piano and like feeling it like not only physically in my fingers but like inside me, like I can feel the music, and it's just like such a release of emotions to be able to sit there and just like play it and like hear it and experience it.
That is very cool, right, Mike? You're an artist.
Yeah,
you can relate to this.
I don't play piano that well, but I do enjoy playing guitar, and it's the same thing. If you have a bad day, you just sit down and you can feel the strings. You can sing the songs that make you feel good, or that sometimes you want to sing the songs that make you feel sad. I used to sing sad songs, and people say it's depressing, but to me, singing the sad songs actually, it gets that emotion out, and then it makes you feel better at the end of it.
Right. Most of the music I listened to, like during one of my horrible depressive episodes that lasted like what felt like years, but it was like probably like a month. I had like this really deep, dark, like playlist of music on Spotify. It was like all Machine Gun Kelly songs and like, riddled with swears and like talking about things like, killing yourself and like doing drugs. And like there was just something I would just sit there and dissociate like for hours on end, just listening to it. And somehow, even though the lyrics were like so dark and depressing and just, it's like, why would anyone sit there and listen to it? Like, wouldn't you want to listen to happy music? But no, I want to listen to the lyrics that I feel right now. I want to listen to the lyrics that like speak to me. And like, it's like, okay, I'm not alone. Like someone else has like, with this,
Yeah. So this, talking about parents, so the parents, they see their kid is, like you said, like your parents would know if like you were going into that space, right? You were saying that.
Yeah.
So what should a parent do if a parent sees that their kid is going into this creative space or this space of whatever you're all doing? What should a parent do? Should they just let you do it, or should they come up and say, "Hey, how are you doing? Are you okay?" Should parents be intrusive? Should they go to their kid and?
Everyone's different. Some people want to be left alone and deal with it. And like maybe after the fact, they'll be ready once they kind of like have dealt with it on their own. But others will need someone to like immediately. I mean, like for me, I would just want to like go sit down and like be by myself, because a lot of the time it's just like, draining to be around people. And the last thing I want when I get home is for someone to be like, bothering me, and like trying to get me to talk when I still haven't processed the emotions or like the day myself.
Right.
So like, I mean, I wouldn't bust in and like be like, hey, you're playing piano, like what's wrong? Like
kids don't really like that, right? They
no.
So respect is very important.
Right.
Right, Sasha? Yeah. Sasha, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, sure. I definitely think it's a conversation that should be had between parent and child. I think, ask your kid, like, tell me how you would like to be. Would you like me to leave you alone? Do you need to vent? It's okay if that changes. You just have to let me know.
Just let me know.
We can establish boundaries. I think that's really important. And, I understand for a lot of people, their parents just don't work that way. I've been there. But, if you can set those boundaries with your parents and if you can have that conversation, I think it's really worth it. And as a parent, try and be as understanding as you can. If your kid says, I just really want to be left alone right now, it doesn't mean that they don't trust you or they don't want to talk to you or they hate you. Sometimes it's just that's how people deal with things better, and they need to process and they need to sit with themselves for a minute. And that's okay. And, it's about supporting your child in any way you can.
I like that.
And I think having that conversation is important.
Empathy and respect, Mike, comes up all the time on our shows, right? The concept of.
Yeah.
And how about you, Jen? What do you think is, in terms of.
I think personally, just being available to your child, like your child knowing that, like, they can go to you at any moment to tell you anything that's going on with them. Like, that is so crucial. I can't tell you how many times, like, I've had either people younger than me or people my age say, I wish I could have gone to my parent. Like, I would go to my parents, but they're going to be mad. They're going to feel insulted that I'm depressed because, they gave me a great life and I should be happy and all this stuff. But it's like that's not how the brain always works. You know what I mean? Being available for your child and letting them know, like, it's like you think about the example, don't call me if you're too drunk to drive home because I'll be so angry at you.
Better to reach out, be honest.
Then you've got a child who is drinking and driving home.
Yeah.
It's like I'm available. That you're, as a parent, you need to be available, not just available, I can call them, but they're still going to be mad at me. Like, available in a safe way.
Yeah. So, like, the biggest thing, Sasha, you want to say anything about this? Because I was going to just jump in. Go ahead. Do you want to have anything you want to say about this?
No, it's okay.
So, I think one of the biggest problems.
Kaylee has
okay, Kaylee, go ahead. We finally got your name right tonight, Kaylee. I have enough other people saying your name that I'm finally learning your name. So go ahead, Kaylee, jump in.
So what I was gonna say is, like, in my experience, like, I definitely, when I was younger, I didn't want to say anything because, like, I didn't want to be in trouble. I didn't want them to, like, think of me differently because I was, like, depressed. Like, it wasn't until I was older and I was in college that I was, like, able to openly, like, have that conversation with my parents. And, like, as soon as I, like, talked to my mom, she was like, oh yeah, like, I've been through it, I get it. And, like, even now as I, like, get older, I'm able to, like, have more of a connection with her through those things. And, like, she probably was, like, the one that was like, okay, I will help you get help. Like, and she found me, like, different doctors and, like, different specialists. And she was, like, just the one to be like, okay, like, you need this help. Like, I had to take a semester off of school in college. Like, I just couldn't, I was at that point in my depression where I could not function. I was crying, like, constantly throughout the day. Like, I would be sitting at work, like, tears streaming down my face. I'd be sitting at school, tears streaming down my face, like, just uncontrollably. So I ended up having to take a semester off, and my mom, was all for it, paid for me to go to an intensive outpatient program. I got the help I needed, but, like, I had to have that conversation with them first and be like, hey, like, I am not okay. Like, I need help.
Yeah. What's very important about this, and I think it's really coming very clear on this show how we have to emphasize this. We need to realize it's okay to ask for help. It doesn't mean you're weak. Right. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest problems, right? There's nothing wrong with asking for help and saying I'm in trouble. I mean, what is so difficult? I mean, people, right? That's the whole stigma thing, right? I mean, and also parents, is there anything so terrible about, I mean, I don't think kids want to know every little detail about their parents' lives, but, like, even with me, I wrote a book with my dad. We wrote letters back and forth. When he was sharing in his letters to me, because we wrote about different stages of the life cycle, I wanted to know what he went through. It made me feel more normalized. Is it good for us to know that from our parents? Does it help me with my dad?
Yeah, I think it really helped me a lot because I was like, oh, okay, so, like, you do get it. You do understand, because we feel like our parents will not understand, but most of the time they've probably dealt with a lot of the same things when they were younger. Like I had no idea my mom had like struggled with any of like
was it helpful to know that?
Oh my God, yeah. Like I went on a trip with her to Oregon for work because I work with my mom, and we went on a trip to Oregon. It was just the two of us, and like we were able to just like sit and talk about it, you know, because we were both like kind of anxious about traveling and like having to wear the mask on the airplane for 8 hours, and it was tough, but like we were able to like sit down and kind of like talk about those anxieties, and I'm like, okay, like you get it, you do get it. And like growing up, I just thought they didn't get it. I thought nobody got it. But as I've gotten older and opened that like conversation, they do get it. You know, it's not like misunderstood, angsty teen. Like, you know, they've been through it most of the time.
Do you both agree with this?
Yeah, totally. Totally. I think it's like, I can't even begin to describe how important being able to talk to my mom has been.
And her sharing, she shares stuff too, and her sharing with you as well.
Yeah. You know, as I've gotten older, and even when I was younger, it started pretty early. It really helps you, like you said, not feel like less alone. And, you know, for me, especially, I don't see my dad anymore, but when you have a parent like him, it can be hard because you think that you're making it up, and the gaslighting and everything can make you feel like you're crazy. And when my mom began to tell me that she experienced the same thing when they were married, it's like, I'm not making this up. And I was able to gain the power to be able to help myself and get myself out of that situation, which probably saved my life.
So we don't
I
always
think it's so important to have a relationship with your parents. Like,
I think it's also important, and Jen, I want you to quickly, because we're running out of time here. I think when we get that perspective, then we don't take it personally. We don't always think that what's wrong with us, because other people are going through it also. And the people would be more open in their communication. We would not feel like we're alone, because we'd say, oh, you mean you go through that too? Well, I'm so relieved. I'm not as crazy as I thought I was, right? And Jen, you want to get the last word, because we're running out of time. Just want to address this in terms of how you see this subject in terms of parents and openness, and do you want to add anything to the conversation? Can you hear me, Jen?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you want to add anything to the conversation about what we're just talking about parents, and do you think it's good for parents to somewhat share some of what they've been through with their children?
So my experience was a little different, because I wasn't like, my parents are older, so they're a lot more old school. Their parents, you know, didn't know anything about mental health. My parents didn't know about it for a long time. I actually had to teach my parents what mental health was, what my diagnoses were, what that meant for me, what they came from. And they also opened up the conversation of talking to your parents about stuff that they do that hurts you. Just because you do something that hurts somebody unintentionally doesn't make you a bad person or a bad parent. Being able to have those open conversations where you say, hey, mom, hey, dad, what you did and what you said, it kind of hurt my feelings. It made me feel some type of way. To be able to have that open conversation and say, you know what, I hear you and I'm sorry.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's done. The conversation's over, and there's healing right there. And there's validating.
Yeah, take responsibility, have accountability, be open to hearing the other side of where they're coming from. We often make too many assumptions. We don't check things out. And what we often sometimes even think what someone's saying isn't really what they're saying. But if you don't ask the question and try to explore the otherness of the other, you always think it's your fault. Or you've misread what the other person's intentions are, right? So it all comes down to communication. That's how I feel. Open, accountability, responsibility, empathy, respect. What we do on Kids Are Talking, each one of you very briefly share with all the listeners that are out there tonight what you would suggest to them in terms of the stigma of mental health, what you would suggest to them and recommend that they learn from this show tonight, and what you can pass on to them. Who wants to jump in first? Sasha, go ahead, jump in.
Sure. So I think if there's one thing that you should take away from this talk tonight, I think it's that mental health is not something to be ashamed of, and that it's okay to ask for help, and to remember that recovery isn't linear, and that it's okay, to struggle. It doesn't mean that you're weak. And mental health stigma, you can see us here. We deal with it too. It's not something that you should be ashamed of or something that you should think you're alone in. You know, find what helps you. And, you know, it's a tough world we live in, but it's important to, you know, do what's best for you and find whatever can help you.
I like that a lot. That's great, Sasha. All right, who's next?
I think that one more thing to remember, and I really liked what Sasha said about it being not being linear, is that recovery and mental health isn't just a straight A to B. It's a journey of learning to walk through this life with coping mechanisms and skills and, you know, healing methods and self-care to walk through this life. It's not, all right, I'm going to get there and I'm going to have great mental health and it's going to be perfect and I'm finally going to make it. That's not what it's about. It's about a journey of growing and healing and learning.
Love it. Last word. Right there. Go ahead.
Oh, I love what Jen just said because, like, for my senior project in college, I literally created a blog called Combating My Anxiety, a Lifelong Journey, because it is a lifelong journey. Like, you wish it'll just go away, but that's not how it works. It's really a matter of learning to cope with it, and learning, you know, to live with it, because it is unfortunately a part of me. Like, it lives inside me. It's here to stay. I'd love for it to rip it out and make it go out. But, you know, it's a lifelong journey and it's not linear. It goes up and down. And the other thing I'd really want to say is, like, it's not taboo to talk about it. Like, there are going to be people who don't understand why you're talking about it. And they're going to sit there and say, like, you might open up to someone and they might just completely shut you down. But that does not mean that your struggles are not valid. Like, all of your emotions and your struggles, they're valid. I've finally learned to, like, kind of just block those people out, because I have lived long enough with this to know it's not in my head. I'm not making it up. Like, these are real things. Like, I've educated myself enough, like, to know that these are, like, all anxiety things or, like, depression things. And it's like, I just try to create content around that too for, like, work. And usually they do pretty well, because I, like, just try to share, like, my struggles. I'm like, okay, like, you know, I'll talk about my social anxiety or, like, all these different experiences I've had to let people know, like, it's not just you. It might feel like it's just you, but it's not.
And as we said earlier tonight, right, Mike? As we said earlier, sometimes those people that are not responsive or get judgmental and threatened by that, or they're threatened by themselves. So don't take it personally. Realize they're just not ready yet.
Right.
Find the people that can hear what you have to say, and don't be even mad at those people, because those people are afraid. The people that are judgmental, they're afraid. I love the concept, Mike, of nonlinear and the journey is the destination. What do you think about tonight and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important things that I heard tonight was that mental health, you know, don't wait until there's a problem. You know, take care of your mental health in a preventative manner. You know, don't wait until your grass is waist high to mow the lawn. You don't wait till you have health problems to start exercising. Take care of your mental health. Take care of yourself, and it can help you in the long term.
And pay attention to the signs, because suicide is too high in this country. So don't turn your head the other way, and don't do what those parents did in Minnesota. And also, all you people are listening, all you educators in the schools, look for the signs, make sure there's good communication all the way around, have assemblies, have kids are talking in your schools, do all those things, keep mental health up in the public eye, no stigma. It's all cool. It's okay to be human and to feel and to hurt.
Right.
So,
and thank you, Kaylee, for connecting us to Positive Directions and Turning Point CT. And everyone that's watching, you can visit turningpointct.org if you want to learn more about their organization or reach out to them. And thanks for watching.
And come backstage. We want to have a little party with the two. I want to celebrate the three of you because you were fantastic. So from all of us, our kids are talking. Get ready, because we got Valentine's Day coming. We got love romance. We got body image stuff coming up with addiction. Kids are talking. We just keep going. And from all of us, our kids are talking. God bless you. We love you. Pay attention, be honest, and don't be ashamed of who you are.
See you next week.
Good night.